So what do you say? One last ride? Hey guys, the Black Critic Guy, and I'm here today to review the much anticipated follow-up to Fast and Furious 6, Furious 7. Now, Furious 7 obviously follows Dominic Toretto, Brian O'Connor, and the gang as they face a new threat. And his name is Deckard Shaw, the older and much more vicious brother of Owen Shaw, who was the main antagonist in Fast and Furious 6. And this guy is out for the blood of the people responsible for his brother's condition. And now Dom and the gang have to figure out how to defeat Deckard before he annihilates them all. Now, after the fantastic Fast and Furious 6, which is without doubt my favorite in the franchise, I was back on board with this franchise. I was so stoked to see the next movie. I could not wait to see what they had in store next. Then tragically, Paul Walker died. And I may not have been a fan of his acting, nor was I really ever attached to his character, but it was such a devastating blow to the franchise because he is a part of the franchise. No matter what anyone says, no matter what anyone thinks of his character or his acting, he is a staple to the franchise. And I think they did the smart move by continuing this film. Because if they were to abandon the film, they would abandon everything that Paul Walker stood for this film. This was his franchise along with Vin Diesel, if not even more. I mean, his character appears in more Fast and Furious movies than Dominic. He was in Too Fast, Too Furious. That puts him at 6 movies, whereas Dom is only in 5. He makes a cameo in Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift, but it's not really his movie. It's just a little cameo. But he was a staple, and it was such a tragic loss. Like I said, I know I need to get to the review and all, but I just thought I'd express my feelings about this. So I was happy that they decided to push on making the film in memory of Paul Walker. And it just made me even more interested to see what they were going to do and how they were going to send off his character. And I gotta say, the last 5 minutes were absolutely beautiful. Like, it was so good. It was so good. That is how you do a send-off. It was the best moment of the film. It was the moment I was waiting for. Because people were talking about, oh my god, it's like the best send-off ever. And they're right. It was so good. That made the movie for me. That is without a doubt one of the best endings to a film I've seen all year. And if they conclude the franchise here, I would be even more happier because, like, it's such a perfect ending. But sadly, this film just comes off as a bittersweet send-off for Paul Walker. Whereas the final 5 minutes of the film were excellent, like superb, it could not have been done any better. The rest of the film, on the other hand, it's decent for a Fast and Furious film. It's just not at the same caliber as like Fast 5 and Fast and Furious 6. It falls a bit short and it is very clunky. Now keep in mind, I am not saying that this is a bad film whatsoever. It's just that when compared to Fast 5 and Fast and Furious 6, the two films that rejuvenated the franchise, earned it a whole lot of respect in the industry and amongst audiences, and brought it to a whole new level that the franchise has never seen before, this film does the franchise injustice by knocking it down a few pegs. Now, I already talked about the last 5 minutes and how beautiful it was and how much I really loved it and it should not be touched. But what else did I like about the film? Well, I for one really enjoyed the action sequences. They were really well done, they were really exhilarating, and just a whole lot of fun to watch. Especially the hand-to-hand combat when two characters are just duking it out. Especially the first fight in the film. Holy crap, that was so well done. I really like James Wan's directorial style of how to shoot the fight scenes, it was really good. And there were a few interesting stunts done here and there that I really enjoyed. And the last thing that I enjoyed in this film was that I still liked the characters and I still rooted for them. Yes, they don't have as much development as the average movie character should, but they're still so likable and you want to root for them, you want to see them succeed. As for Jason Statham, was a decent villain. I mean, he was menacing. Holy crap, I do not want to get into a fight with this guy. He means business when he throws down. But as a main antagonist or main antagonist, he could have been done a little bit better. And since I'm talking about him, I guess we should go into the problems that I have with the film. The biggest problem with this film was the story. Now wait, I know what you're all going to say. You're either gonna say, since when did a story ever matter in the Fast and Furious franchise? And you make a valid point there. The story never was the central part of the Fast and Furious franchise. Or you're either gonna say, well, they had to rewrite it because of Paul Walker's tragic death. You know, they had to work around that and edit the story here and there. And to that, I understand that too. But they're not going to change the entire storyline. They had a basis, they had a story going, they just had to weave a little bit some of the scenes with Brian to alter it a little bit. That's the only change they made. But my biggest issue with the film and its story is the fact that it's all over the place, guys. It's like, holy shit. And there is just too many subplots. Way too many subplots. Like, you thought going into this film the only thing that they had to deal with was freaking Deckard Shaw, right? You thought he was going to be the main antagonist, right? The main antagonist? Wrong. He's like the main antagonist for the first 20 minutes. And then all of a sudden, like, Dom is recruited by this secret agent who's also trying to get Deckard and he's going to help him out. But in order to do that, he has to help the secret agent out doing this one thing where they have to find this girl named Ramsey who has this device called the God Eye or something like that, and then these other like militant gangsters or crime syndicate want it as well, but in order to get this they have to go to Dubai. It's all over the place and it's convoluted as shit. I understand you're trying to be a bit different from the others, especially now that James Wan is directing this film, but it's just not executed well and it just doesn't work for this franchise. Now I know many of you are probably thinking that I'm looking way too into the story of this film. Hell, my friend Chris, who went to see this movie with me, felt that exact way. It's supposed to just be a mindless action film. You're not supposed to care about the story. And that's right, you don't really care about the story. But the story has to be at least coherent and flow well as a narrative. This film, taking too many directions, and I felt like they just didn't understand what made the film work and how it works, and that could be solely blamed to their new director James Wan. And I'm not saying he's a bad director. I love this guy. It's just that being a new person into this franchise, he doesn't understand what makes the franchise mold. He put his own stamp on it and it just didn't mesh well. It's not like Justin Lin, who understands how to direct these action scenes and how to direct these actors and how to bring the story all together. And sadly, that leads me to my next problem with this film. And that is with James Wan's direction of the actors. I didn't have a problem with his direction of the action. In fact, I thought he did a fantastic job being his first time ever doing a big budgeted action film and doing it with cars for the first time. He did really good. But when it came to capturing the essence and tone of the chemistry between the characters, it just never was visible. Whereas in the last film, Fast and Furious 6 for example, you may not have believed their acting, but you damn well felt the chemistry between them. And that's because Justin Lin understood the characters. He understood the history and he knew how to mold the scene and direct the actors. James Wan, on the other hand, did not. And because of that, many of the sentimental scenes suffer for it. There is this whole subplot dealing with Letty and Dom where they're trying to rekindle their relationship, and had it been directed by somebody who understood the history and chemistry between the characters, it might have passed off as believable and you might have felt a connection. But because it was handed to a first-time director for the franchise, he just didn't know how to capture that moment. He didn't know how to capture that feeling. Thus, You didn't feel a connection. I, for one, did not feel a strong bond between Letty and Dom in this film, although it was prevalent in the other films. Probably the second biggest issue with this film, and it kind of ties in with the writing and story, was all of the unnecessary characters in this film. I mean, it would have been fine if the story was focused on like one antagonist, which is Deckard, if it was all about him. But the film has over 4 of them. Not only do you have Deckard to worry about, there's like this black guy that shows up, he's like a mafia type dude, and then you got Tony Jaa who's in the movie, then this one chick who was in The Expendables 3. But not only are there way too many antagonists in the film, but like there are other characters that just shouldn't have been in the film to begin with. Like Kurt Russell's character. Like, why? Just, why? We don't need him. And the last problem with this film was all the anticlimactic boss fights. Do I even need to say any more? They were just extremely unfulfilling. Now I know it seems like I'm being extremely negative towards this film, which isn't my intention. I did enjoy this film for what it was, and it was a decent installment to the Fast and Furious franchise with a beautiful send-off at the end. It's just that the last film, Fast and Furious 6, raised the bar so high that it just didn't meet my expectations, and I feel like it wouldn't meet a lot of people's expectations. We now expect to see a higher caliber when it comes to the Fast and Furious franchise, at least action-wise, and I just felt like they just didn't deliver in this installment. And because of that, I'm gonna give this film a 3 out of 5 stars. It's okay. If you're not a huge fan of this franchise, you don't have to go and see this film. You could wait and rent it on Redbox or something. Nobody's gonna beat you up for it. But if you're a huge fan of this franchise and a huge fan of Paul Walker, you have to see this film. If for anything else, just to see the final moments. Oh my god. Tears. Now I know I'm gonna get a lot of hate for this review, but don't worry, I'm prepared for it. But anyway, what did you guys think about this film? Did you absolutely love it? Did you love the ending as much as I did? Or did you find it to be really par for the course and just substandard? You didn't really care about anything? And let me know, what is your favorite installment in the Fast and Furious franchise? And better yet, what was your favorite Paul Walker moment in the Fast and Furious franchise? Comment below and let me know. And I do have a few movie reviews coming your way this weekend. I'm hoping to watch It Follows, and hopefully I'll review Chappie. But until those videos come, guys, if you would like to be a part of the Black Critic crew and not miss out on a single awesome Fast and Furious review, please hit that subscribe button below, like this video if you really enjoyed it, and I'm Tony Watt II, the Black Critic Guy. Till then, peace, YouTube.
Wow.